Hello, everyone. Hello, scientists, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Sonia, and I am joined in this lovely studio by my good friend Tina, and she is going to be the one that is working all of this magic that you see going on right behind me. Um, we are super excited to have you all here joining us today. If you are watching this live at October, Wednesday, August 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think I might just be super excited for Halloween. That's why I just have October on the brain. Anyway, we are going to be doing a Draw With Us episode today where you are invited to draw a picture along with me. I am going to be drawing a lovely kelp forest habitat, and for this, you will just need a piece of paper, just like this, a pencil, and some color pencils, whichever ones that you have with you. If you don't want to color and you just want a pencil and a piece of paper, that totally works as well. So let me set my materials back down. Um, we are going to be drawing a kelp forest habitat. And before we jump right into our drawing, I want to go over some of the things that scientists do because we're also going to practice our science skills. So we're super lucky today we get to practice those artwork skills, those drawing skills, but we're also going to practice some of the things that scientists do every single day. Well, now, what am I talking about, you might be wondering? I am talking about making observations. So we're going to start off today with just looking at things with our eyes and seeing what we notice. Seeing if we notice any particular shapes, any colors, any patterns, movement, all things of that nature. As we explore more about a kelp forest together. So I'm going to take a step off and I want you all to make some observations. We're going to start off by looking at the non-living or abiotic factors in this habitat. So the things that are not alive that are in here, what do you see? What do you notice? I'll step off and give you a few moments to look around. Go ahead and take a couple more seconds. Okay, scientists. So, before we start talking about some of those abiotic or non-living factors, I want to point out something really cool about this exhibit. So, this is our blue cavern exhibit that we have here at the aquarium, and it is actually modeled after a real dive site off of the coast of Catalina Island. So, Catalina is an island not far from Southern California, and it is what this exhibit was built after, where we got sort of our inspiration. Now that we know some background information, let's go ahead and talk about some of those abiotic or non-living factors. The first thing that comes to mind, at least for myself, is the water. This exhibit is full of water, and that is what's going to provide at the very base level of life for all of the creatures that call it home, right? So we've got that water. Fish need water to swim in, of course. Um, what else do you notice? Is there any other non-living factors that you see? I also notice lots of rocks over here and over there. And it might be hard to see, but at the very bottom, there is actually sand. So sand and lots of smaller, finer sediment at the bottom of this exhibit. That is going to be our last non-living factor. So what I'm going to do is head over to my document camera and I'm going to start off just by drawing those non-living factors. Alrighty, so as I said before, we've got some water. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to draw my water line all the way up here. Oh, you cannot see that. Let me go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. There we go. So there is my water line. I'm also going to add those rocks that we were talking about. So I don't know about you, but I noticed that the rocks were all the way on the bottom of our kelp forest habitat. So I'm going to add mine all the way at the bottom of my picture here. I'm going to put one over here in the corner. I'm going to put another smaller one coming off of that one. And then I'm also, going to put one maybe over here, a nice tall one coming off of this corner here. Another thing that my good friends Sarah and Connolly showed me to add to rocks are some cracks. And I feel like that makes them look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and add some cracks over here to my rock drawing. And you are welcome to add some to yours if you would like to. Alrighty, I got my cracks in my rocks here. Now I'm also gonna add some sand, so I'm just gonna do some dots down here to show that there is a rocky sort of sediment at the very bottom. And I'm gonna add some brown as well. There we go. Lots of sand that we have here at the bottom of our exhibit. All right, we've got water, we've got rocks, we've got sand. This picture that I'm drawing, I'm going to imagine as though this is right out in the ocean. So I'm also going to add another abiotic factor, which is the sun, nicely at the top here. I'm going to add our sun. You can color it in if you would like to. I'm going to color mine in as well. We've got some nice sunshine coming down. I'm going to add some rays, some sun rays. There we go. Now we know that is the sun, and we have got pretty much all of our abiotic factors. Let's go ahead and go back to our kelp forest and see what other things we notice. Now we can take a moment and see what sort of biotic or living factors that we have in here. So there are so many. I'm going to give you a sec to make those scientist observations, see what you notice, what you are viewing right in front of you, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Alrighty, scientists, take about 5 more seconds to make note of your observations. Okay, so I don't know about you, but one thing that really strikes me about a kelp forest is all of the kelp inside of it, right? Can't have a kelp forest without kelp, and that is going to be the first biotic, the first living thing that I want to highlight in our time together. So you will notice these lovely stalks right over here. There's one right here. There's also one right that's closer right behind me. But these lovely stalks of kelp that you see are what creates this forest, right? Why don't we go ahead and talk about the different parts of kelp and what makes kelp kelp? So, kelp is basically a type of algae. We might often think of it as being a plant, but they are a little bit different than plants that grow on land. Um, the way that algae works is that they don't have roots that dig into the soil, right, to get their nutrients. But they do use the sun to get energy in a process called photosynthesis. So, very similar to the way that plants do it. The parts of giant kelp, which is this species that you see here, this is actually going to be the largest species of kelp. Um, but when we're starting off with it, they have a very cool structure called a holdfast. And I think we have lovely and amazing video of a holdfast. I'm going to step off a little bit so you can see it better. But this structure right here, this is called a holdfast, and it looks to me like roots, right, on a plant. But these are actually just things that anchor our kelp to rocks, to a very hard surface that allow it to grow. Something really cool about a holdfast is that they are sort of a mini ecosystem in their own right. There are lots of small invertebrates, very small creatures that live just inside of the holdfast. You might be able to see a brittle star that is inside of here. There are also small crabs, little crustaceans, and things of that nature that are going to call our holdfast home. I'm going to walk over to my document camera because I brought with me a real kelp holdfast to show you all so we can get a nice and close look at it. Alrighty, so here is my holdfast. This is one that is been dried out, as you can see. And all of these sort of holes that are in between, those are going to be where those animals like to live, like to crawl in and out of. It can keep them safe from larger animals that might want to predate on them. And this, you can really see sort of the tunnels that were created here. So lots that we can see just by making observations of what a holdfast is. Alrighty. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw a holdfast, or do my very best to draw one. I don't know about you, but I noticed that the holdfast was nicely anchored to the rock. So I'm going to start off just by drawing some squiggly lines just like this, and that's going to be my holdfast. I'm also going to add some brown as well because there's some brown that I noticed as well. If the colors that you have are not exactly how it looks in the picture or in the video, that is okay because we are scientists and artists, so it can be however you choose to make it. I'm going to go ahead and draw another holdfast up over here. So I'm just adding more squiggly lines, just like so. And I'll go in with my green color pencil and add some more. I would say this is sort of like a U shape, an upside down U that I did the holdfast in. Okay, now moving on, let's see if we can go back to um, our kelp forest in Blue Cavern, and we can look and see what other parts of kelp are there. Beautiful. So as you can see, we've got these lovely holdfasts right there, but it doesn't stop there, right? No, the kelp continues to grow. So what we're going to do is talk about the rest of the parts of this sort of stalk here, as I like to call it, this stalk of kelp. One thing that you might notice are these lovely things that look sort of like leaves. But on kelp, they're actually going to be called blades, or the blade. So we've got the blade, and then I'm going to point out this small bubble that you see right there. Perfect. That is going to be in a pocket filled with air that helps them to stay nice and afloat. Those air pockets are going to be called pneumatocysts, and they work oh perfect lovely. So now we can actually see it nice and up close. There we go. These air pockets called pneumatocysts work very similar to a way that a life jacket works. They help to keep our kelp nice and afloat. They allow it to float up to the surface of the water instead of just being completely falling down without those air pockets. That's exactly what would happen. So I'm going to walk over to my document camera again and show you a little bit closer. I brought with me a kelp model so we can take a nice and close look. So here I have some artificial kelp, and as you can see, we've got this pneumatocyst here that the blade is connected to, right? But you might also notice something else, which is this long sort of thing that kind of reminds me of a stem. What could that be? So this is actually going to be called the stipe. And it is what strings all of our kelp blades and nematocysts together. And that is going to be the stipe, which these nematocysts are connected to, and then the kelp blade. Now that we have a good understanding of the different parts of kelp, why don't we go ahead and add some to our drawing. So, I'm going to start off by drawing just a long line. I'm going to maybe curve it as I get closer to the surface of the water here. So a long line that curves just like that as I get close to the surface of the water. Now what I'm going to add on here are a little, like a smaller stem with a pneumatocyst, just like that. And then I'm going to add the blade itself, just like that. I'm going to add these all along my stipe here. And by doing that, I'm going to fill out our stipe of kelp. Lots of leaves. Does not have to be perfect. There we go. Some of them I'm doing a line in between the stipe and the nematocyst. Some of them I'm not. I don't know why. It is just pure creative. I might also add some brown leaves over here, just because I like the way that it looks with the brown. I think it makes for a nice picture. There we go. I'm going to add a couple more over this way. And one last one over here. If you added more than one hold fast, the same way that I did right here, feel free to add blades on that one too, and a stipe as well. I'm not going to add mine just yet, so we can make sure I have time to show you about other animals as well. But just pointing out here, we've got our bottom layer, right? This would be considered the bottom layer of a kelp forest with the hold fast. Then we have our mid-water layer, where other animals will call this area home, just the same way we have a home in the hold fast. And then at the very top, we have what is called the canopy. And many animals live up near the surface and use this top layer, this canopy layer, for lots of things as well. So same way there are different levels of a rainforest, the kelp forest has different layers as well. Alrighty friends, so we've got our kelp in here. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to let Tina choose any sort of animal that also lives in a kelp forest that we can add to our drawing. Let's see here. What will we choose? I'm so excited to find out. Oh, perfect. Amazing. What we have here. What do we have here? Any guesses? If you said sea urchin, you were correct. We have an amazing purple sea urchin right over here. And these animals have a really cool adaptation with all of these spines here. These are able to help it protect itself from something that might want to eat it. I don't know about you friends, but I would not want to take a chomp out of that animal because it just looks so prickly. And that's exactly the point. These animals have no bones in their body, but they do have other things, such as these spines, that help to keep them nice and safe. It's an amazing adaptation that they have. I'm going to head back over to my drawing, and I'm going to add a couple purple sea urchins. Let's see here. Do I have a purple color? Okay. This is sort of a violet purple that I have. And the way that I'm going to draw the sea urchin is I'm just going to draw a spiky shape that is in a like circle, a circular shape. A circular shape with spikes, if that makes sense. Something really interesting about urchins is that their favorite food is actually kelp. And so I'm drawing them right near the holdfast because that is where they will often start to chew on the kelp. I'm going to add another urchin right over here. Not necessarily chew, right? Because I did say they have no bones in their bodies. Nonetheless, they do feed on kelp, and they do so at the very bottom layer. So I've got another urchin right over here, and two more over there. Alrighty, we've got our urchins, we've got some kelp. I'm going to have lovely Tina choose another animal that we can add to our kelp forest drawing. Oh, now we are talking. I'm going to go ahead and step off so you all can get a nice full view at this amazing fish. Any guesses as to what this giant fish might be called? I'm giving you a little bit of a hint there. Well, scientists, if you said giant sea bass, you were correct. Let's go ahead and point out some of the unique things that this animal has. I am noticing all of these spots here. Do you see those as well? What if I told you that all giant sea bass have completely different spot patterns that are unique to each animal? They are unique to each individual fish, and it's very similar to the way that fingerprints work for us. So all people have different fingerprints. All giant sea bass are going to have slightly different spot variations, different patterns in their spots, which I think is super cool. Another thing that is amazing about these animals is just the sheer size of them. Look at that. These fish can get up to 7 feet, 7 feet long and weigh up to 500 pounds. I know, so huge. Once they get up to that size, they are going to be the top predators in that kelp forest habitat. So let's go ahead and add some to our drawing here. Okay, scientists, now is going to be the moment of truth, and you will see I am not the best at drawing, but that's okay. I'm still practicing, and you are practicing along with me, but I'm going to try my best to draw a giant sea bass here. So I feel like they have a shape that's very similar to that, kind of ovular, right? This shape is called fusiform, and a lot of fish and sharks share that same fusiform body shape. And then I noticed that their tail is somewhat of a triangle. So I'm going to draw this line right here and connect it to the body, just like that. There's that triangle shape. Tina, can you show us the picture one more time just so I can get a good look at their front? Okay, so I'm noticing that the front here of this animal sort of narrows, it gets narrow as it gets to the end here. So I'm going to do the same thing in my drawing and see if I can get it right. Alrighty, so it gets nice and narrow at the front of our fish. I'm going to draw an eye right there. I'm going to draw a line right here. Those are its gills. And I'm also going to try and draw some fins. So there's one, there's another. That's going to be on the other side. And of course, I can't forget those spots. So I'm going to draw some spots on our giant sea bass. And I'll do some lines here on the tail. There we go. Alrighty, let's go ahead and see what we're going to... Oh wait, I almost forgot the mouth. There we go. That will be its mouth. Yay! Now let's go ahead and see which other animal in our kelp forest will we meet. I think we have time for about 2 more friends. So let's see. Ah, perfect. We've got a beautiful sea otter right over here. These animals are super awesome in that they are important for saving our kelp forest. So do you remember earlier when I mentioned that sea urchins love to eat kelp? Well, a great way that our ecosystems keep that in balance is with sea otters because their favorite snack are sea urchins. Sometimes they will eat so many that their teeth actually turn purple, which I just think is super cute. Ah, look at that nice close up of those teeth there. Those teeth are going to be perfectly adapted to um, chomp on that hard outer shell of a sea urchin, but they are also known to use tools like rocks and shells to help crack open that shell and get into the nice insides of sea urchins. So let's go ahead and go over to our drawing, and I'm going to add a sea otter. Alrighty, so I've got my brown colored pencil right over here, and I'm actually going to add them to the surface, or add one at least to the surface. Oftentimes sea otters will be kind of just laying out on their backs, hanging out, floating. Maybe this one already went down to dive for something, and now it's just relaxing. So I just drew a circle and then like a longer oval for its body shape. I'm going to add some arms, just like that, and then some shorter legs, just like that, for our sea otter. I'm going to put some cute ears on mine, just like that. Some more circles. Then I'm going to draw its eyes, and then a mouth, like that, with some whiskers. Yippee! And now I'm going to give it a snack, which is going to be a sea urchin. There we go. He's got his snacking on a sea urchin. Friends, we've got a beautiful kelp forest. Let's see if we can quickly add just one more animal to it. And let's see which one that will be. If there are no more, that is okay. Oh, lovely. Yeah, let's choose one of these friends. So right here we have so many invertebrates. We've got sea stars, and we have some anemones. There are also some clams that I see hanging out right over here. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple sea stars hanging out at the bottom of our kelp forest, and then I think we'll be good. Alrighty. I noticed a beautiful pink color on those sea stars. So that is the color I'm going to choose to do mine. And I'm just adding a star shape, but that has rounded edges. So just like this, 5 arms. This one's kind of floating. That's okay. I'm going to put another one right over here. There we go, just like that. Look at this beautiful kelp forest habitat that we have created, friends. We've got the water, rocks, hold fast with our kelp stemming off of it. We've got urchins, a giant sea bass, and a lovely otter hanging out at the top and enjoying a snack. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are ever watching this back and you have questions, feel free to email those to us at live@lbaop.org. We want you to continue being scientists, continue to be curious. We thank you so much for joining us today and hope to see you again on another episode of Aquarium Online Academy. Bye, friends.